Hello.
Hello, Earthlings.
Hello, everyone.
We're on the internet, folks. We're on the World Wide Web.
Old school.
So, welcome along to the Animal Rights Show. So, who's going to do the intro? We didn't even work that out, did we?
Oh,
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah. So, this really is the first of another series that we think about in terms of social media activism, really. So, our first guest panelist of this series is Ryan from Happy Healthy Vegan. So, hi, Ryan, and welcome along to the show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for inviting me. I'm flattered and honored to be your first social media activist on your show.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Well, you've got a pretty big platform, haven't you? What's your numbers at the moment?
I mean, we have like over 200,000 subscribers, and I really think most of them though probably haven't watched an episode, and maybe like we've been on YouTube since 2013, so that number is just like slowly accumulating people over the years. But yeah, that's what it looks good though to say. Yeah, you got 215,000 followers.
Yeah,
Now,
that's a long
here's
time.
a comment about you, Ryan. What do you think of this?
What's a comment about me? About what aspect? Having that amount of followers, or doing it for so long, or what?
Can you see that? Can people see that?
Yeah,
Not
I
them
can see
talking
it.
about basketball. He's no good at it.
They're joking. They know I'm decently good for it, especially for a person of my age.
Yeah, you actually left. You were going to do a game after we had our planning meeting, weren't you? So
Yes, I did. I went and did my thing at the gym. Played for about an hour and a half that Friday. Yeah.
Very good.
I'm gonna go again tomorrow.
Splendid. Does somebody want to do the hellos, people, when I take some stuff off?
Yeah, I can do the hello. So who we got so far? Dave was early, online waiting for Brian. Dave, I'm not sure where the handsome little fellow is at the moment, but you might make an appearance. I've put in a request especially for you. We've got Amber. Hi, Amber. And Jennifer, who's the vegan songstress. We were just talking about you, vegan songstress. We've got Jonah Whale. Hey, Jonah. And Benny. Hey, Benny. And we've got Philip here as well. Hi, Philip. And Ronnie Lee. Hey, Ronnie. And Gawain. Gawain, we haven't seen you for ages. And he just said, long time no see. Welcome back, Gawain. Where have you been? Where have you been?
And so
Nice to see everyone.
Philip has not said hello from New York this time. He normally announces where he's typing from.
Oh,
Maybe
Says,
he's on
hoop it
holiday.
up, my man. Hoop it up. That's referring to basketball, I imagine. Hoop it up, Ryan.
What's
Says
that?
Philip.
Okay,
Philip,
I will tomorrow for sure.
Excellent.
All
That's
right,
it.
is
So
that-
do
is
say
that
hello,
what-
everyone.
Is that what you say in basketball? Hoop it up. Is that a real phrase?
Hoop it up.
I don't say it, but it makes sense. I understand it.
Well, Philip says it, and that's the main thing.
I
That's
will,
all-
Philip.
Oh,
I'm gonna hoop it up tomorrow for you, Philip. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do some big time jumping practice tomorrow.
Oh,
Very
Gawain
good.
says he's been working. All these vegans working, giving us a bad name. Same as Benny. Benny's been working as well. Stop it. Stop.
Yeah, we used to look forward to non-vegans shouting "Get a job" at us, and it
Get a
doesn't work
job.
anymore, does it? Get a job and get a life. They used to say, didn't they? So,
Get a job. Go and get a job and get a wash and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So, Ryan, what's that yellow thing we can see in your frame?
Oh, it's my water bottle. I was just telling you guys, I just drink water. I don't drink soda or sports drinks. So this water company from America, Coldest, reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to drink water but use our bottles instead?" I said, "Yeah, for sure." So yeah, we have so what's it called? It's like an affiliate sponsorship or something like that we have with them. We have a code VEGAN where people can save 10% off their orders. I don't have a link ready. That's on my live stream, so I just thought I'd give them a plug since you asked. But it's a rad
Coldest,
bottle.
yeah. Well, if any reps from Coldest, send us a few of these, and everybody in the chat, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Just really quick, the coolest thing about it is the name implies it really keeps stuff cold. You can put ice in it and take it out with you all day. I'm not used to water staying cold when I go out with me, but yeah, it really lives up to its name.
Well, in Ireland, if you put water in a bottle and take it somewhere, it gets colder.
This is California. I think they're from Florida, where it's even warmer than here. So yeah, we need the ice and insulation.
Right, so we're going to talk about social media activism. As everybody could tell, probably because we were about 5 minutes in and we haven't asked a decent question yet. We're not very well planned, probably, but we were.
Gosh,
we were
don't
gonna...
give it all away.
Oh no, yeah. That's
don't give away our
I have a question. For Ryan.
Yes, you know.
Have you any idea what percentage of your viewers are vegan? Are exclusively vegan, or there are non-vegans watching your?
These are
lives?
my just best estimations from having done so many live streams and interacting with our viewers and reading our comments. I would estimate like well over 90% of our viewers are vegan, probably maybe like 95 or something like that. And I always emphasize on the live streams, this isn't exclusively for vegans. If you're vegan curious, because many, we're all in a, if before we went vegan, we didn't just go vegan overnight. It's a process. It's a process of learning, getting good quality information, which I hope to be providing. Some might debate that, but anyway, and you have people who watch who aren't even vegan curious. They're just kind of like against veganism, and they're kind of curious as to what we're doing. But I'd say yeah, 90+%, 95% of our viewers are vegan.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we mentioned before, because we were talking about the vegan songstress, and we were talking about these efforts to get out of the vegan bubble, and so it's good obviously for vegans to talk to the public, and TikTok is proving to be a pretty interesting place for that, but it's also a very toxic kind of place. Whereas I suppose really you're not getting a lot of trolls on your site, but you do get quite a few questions. And I also noticed that you booted a couple of people out because they've been a little bit kind of rude and stuff,
Naughty. No, we get trolls for sure. Yeah, the trolls are just a fact of life these days on social media. I don't think you can avoid it on any platform.
How do you think non-vegans find you even?
I honestly don't know, especially the trolls. I mean, since we've been around for so long and, have, 200,000 plus followers, we're kind of a target of sorts. People perceive us as like a big deal. So I guess the trolls, the anti-vegans, as I coined the phrase, I think I coined the phrase a few years ago. It's kind of caught on, but I think the anti-vegans know who we are, because anti-vegan channels make content about us, as I talked to you about in our meeting a few days ago. But as far as like people with good intentions, people who are vegan curious, I think they're just looking around on YouTube, searching like keywords like veganism or stuff like that, and they stumble upon us.
Yeah, I think all the people used to do this Zoom bombing. I think they've all moved to TikTok now, because Zoom bombing doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. It used to be a real problem. When at the beginning of the pandemic, when everybody moved online, there's lots of conferences. There's a lot.
They fixed their security. They plugged those holes up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, Zoom is so lockdown, so done, so passé.
It's so 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Roger, just before we carry on with this great topic of social media, we have some sad news, don't we?
Yes, we do, and I was just waiting for people to join really on this, in the sense that it's been announced that Nancy Reagan has sadly died at age 83. So we wanted to mention that. So this is the notification on the Culture and Animals Foundation, which obviously Nancy and Tom Reagan founded together. So I also wanted to point this out. This is the link here to the Raleigh News and Observer. So when I click on that, you'll see the screen change, I should think. And so there was a nice obituary in that. So if you want to read all of this, you should first of all go to the Culture and Animals Foundation. And I was pointing out before that both Nancy and Tom were very well respected in their local community, which is quite interesting. In fact, there's a YouTube which is called I wrote it down. Hang on a second. NC People. If you put in YouTube in the search bar, Tom Reagan NC People, you'll see this kind of local kind of TV show where you could see the respect for him, and on reflection by Nancy as well. Tom used to delight in telling audiences that he was married to Nancy Reagan. So that was one thing. His kind of Irish humour, I suppose. Yeah, so that's a bit of sad news.
Dave is saying that he met Nancy with Tom. Good people,
Yeah,
R.I.P.
yeah. I met Tom, but I never met Nancy. And there's a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show, although she never turns up. Bernie,
Yeah, come on, Bernie.
Bernie Wright from Alliance for Animal Rights, and she was a good friend of Nancy and Tom. And she did say a few weeks ago that Nancy had stopped writing back because I think it was a bit too much for her, I think. So she was a little bit thing, and she also said that she was, heartbroken because of Tom's passing and stuff. So.
Really sad.
Well, there we go.
Really
So,
sad. Rest in power, Nancy.
Indeed.
rest in power. Okay.
Master Gob says, "Hey up, hey up." Do you recognize different accents in kind of British and Irish accents, Ryan?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. They're
do you
wonderful.
kind of say? Would you recognise where they're from? So if I say "Hey up," you would know about that one?
I have a few that I can pick out, like Cockney, obviously, but like Scottish. I think I could pick out Edinburgh from Glasgow, for instance. But as far as that
is good going. Yeah.
As far as England, though, I might have a little tougher time identifying which city. In Scotland, you only have two, so it's not too tough.
Yeah, I think Edinburgh is seen as the more sophisticated accent, isn't it? In that sense, but there you go. So yes, indeed, Philip. Rest in peace, power and protection. Indeed.
Let me ask you a really quick question. Do I have an accent too? And if so, what kind, of American accent?
Oh, yeah. I'd say it's kind of like when you said just then, you said, what? Say that sentence again, right?
What kind of American accent do I seem to have to you guys?
It's a Scottish American
accent. It's kind of like, it's got a little bit of a lull to it. Different to kind of New York, which is a little bit more.
Oh yeah, I don't sound anything like a New Yorker.
No,
East
you
Coast.
sound nothing like New Yorker. Yeah. So yeah, is it kind of more West Coast?
Yeah, I think I have a pretty solid West Coast accent, a California accent. Yeah.
Yeah, Cali accent.
Dave's saying California. Gawain's soft California accent.
Soft Californian accent.
Yeah.
What's the hard one like then?
Yeah.
Maybe mine. I don't know.
I want to hear a medium one. Okay. So Ryan, can you remember the 5 worst arguments against veganism that you covered?
I don't know if those are. We made that video. Angie and I made that one several months ago. I don't know if they were the 5 worst ones of all time, but when we just sat down to produce that episode, they were the 5 worst ones that came into our minds. But yeah, I remember that video. I think there might be some worse arguments. I realized later. That one's even worse.
And can you remember them?
Off the top of my head, not right now.
Piers Morgan was the first one.
Piers Morgan, we like to show Piers Morgan's just dumb things he says about veganism, because they're just, I don't know how to say it politely, they're just dumb. I know he's a spoken and highly educated person, but when it comes to veganism,
also,
his IQ seems like it's about 40 or something.
Sorry, did that just come out?
What did I say?
No, I don't know. I think it just was spontaneously fell out of my mouth, that word, arsehole. Oops, there it is again. Hush my mouth.
Oh no.
I mean, what he's saying is such rubbish. I can't believe he actually truly believes what he's saying. I think he's just saying it to shock people and get press and media coverage about it. But it's just so stupid. Again, not being ableist or anything like this. It's just so just nonsensical. I can't believe he really honestly believes, has conviction behind his arguments, because they're just so bad.
Here's a Deb.
Deb!
Hello, Deb.
There you are, Deb!
What's going on? Yeah.
I'm having to give Deb detention now.
So Morgan was talking about crop deaths essentially, because he was kind of having a go at the Vegan Society people about, oh well, isn't you kind of eating bread the same as me eating flesh? That's essentially what he was saying, and it's one of the things that come up on TikTok a lot, crop deaths. And another favorite at the moment is, I think that's because of that vegan teacher. She was kind of caught out, or at least alleged she was caught out, using a type of pen which had animal products in it. You know, I think they're called Sharpie. Is that right? Sharpie or something? And that's supposed to have got animal products. And so now what the people on TikTok are saying all the time is that your computer screen has got cholesterol in, your tires, you know, all this kind of stuff. And so basically they're trying to suggest that these byproducts that are in these products, which obviously we don't want them to be there, and there's very little we can do about it. And it's not as though the Vegan Society are putting animal cholesterol into iPhones, right? And so they're kind of suggesting, you know, you need to get rid of all that kind of stuff. And that's the same as us eating a steak, which obviously it isn't. I mean, you don't buy an iPhone 3 times a day, a point that Jennifer makes all the time.
So,
And,
I mean, it's just a misunderstanding of the definition of veganism. And that's one reason why I like the Vegan Society's modern definition, where they have the key phrase, as far as possible and practicable. Going vegan doesn't mean that you can't participate in the modern world, such as drive cars which have tires, or you won't be able to use digital technology. You'll be living in the dark ages and not be able to compete in the workplace. I mean, going vegan doesn't ask you to give up all these things in life that are essential, as far as possible and practicable. There's people think veganism means 100% perfection of no cruelty whatsoever. And if there's any hint of cruelty, veganism has been debunked, and that's just complete nonsense. This is the problem. Non-vegans, like Piers Morgan, really feel it's their job to define veganism in a bizarre way that has nothing to do with the history of the definition.
Well, you like to talk about the definition, Ryan, so this is why we prepared this screen and one other as well, in a way, because I was telling the story about this definition on people's screens now is the fact that this top bit that I'm highlighting, it used to be a lot smaller, and so all that bit was cut off it. And most importantly, from our point of view, this bit here about philosophy and was cut off. So it always said veganism is a way of living which seeks to exclude, right? And so if you look around the internet now, you'll see that that bit that's not highlighted is often put as the definition, but without a philosophy bit as well. And so it was Jeremy Hess who contacted the Vegan Society and said, do you know that your kind of subtitle, as it were, on your definition page has got an edited version of the definition? And they kind of knew that because you had to kind of scroll down. But people didn't do that. People didn't scroll down. And so people took the short version as the definition. And so the Animal Rights Show, as it were, are a bit responsible, at least through Jeremy anyway, for now getting the full definition at the top of this screen. And another thing that you do, Ryan, is you talk often about this bit, don't you? The 1949 one, right?
Yeah, basically the doctrine of the just basically don't exploit animals, the emancipation of animal exploitation for man, that part.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
I like that because it's really succinct. It really captures the essence of the definition. The modern one expands upon it, you know, brings in a few subtleties. But yeah, the 49 one really is, you know, cuts to the chase.
Yeah, do you know the 45 one from Donald Watson, where he said that the object of the vegan society is to oppose the exploitation of sentient beings, whether it's profitable to do so or not, which I always thought was a grand definition. I think it's kind of better than what we've got at the moment, to be honest. But what I wanted to do was to follow up on what you said there about Leslie Cross, because people will know I'm a big fan of Leslie Cross, and this is one of his essays. So if you want to see Leslie Cross's essays, you go to this website, which is a really good one. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things on this. Let me just get rid of that bit of the screen. Okay, so this is a two-part essay in search of veganism, and it's really interesting because this bit, which is highlighted, culminates, if you like, with that bit that you said, Ryan, the principle, the emancipation of the animals by exploitation, from exploitation by man. But here, he talks about the run-up to forming the definition. And he's basically saying that he's warning us as advocates that the definition isn't the end of it all. And really, it's the beginning of it, but it doesn't really capture everything. In the same way as any definition about any big idea can't be captured really by the definition. You know, so Marxism or quantum physics is not really captured too well by a single definition. So this is what he's saying in that top bit. He actually points out 6 things. I'm not going to read them out, but the first one is interesting. Veganism is reform, he says, which is interesting. And of course, reform in those days meant a bit more. I mean, reform is a bit of a soft word now, isn't it? But it meant a bit more in those days. But he says here, any definition of veganism must contain all those 6 observations. So he's getting to this idea that the definition is a good place to start, but it's not the end of it. And you know, don't just rely on that. And so I think that Leslie Cross's work in that respect is very valuable for us, because it reminds us about the limits of a definition.
Yeah, he's obviously thought this through quite a bit.
Yeah, well, it was pointed out by the historian of the Vegan Society that at the beginning, the beginning years, they didn't have a definition of veganism. They had a definition of a vegan diet, but they didn't have a definition of veganism. And so Leslie Cross has been very important for the vegan movement for that very reason himself, the fact that he said, okay, we've been going now for 5 years, we need a definition. And he even said in the essays that he wrote, it's understandable that a social movement doesn't have a definition right from the start, you know, because we're just kind of, you know, finding our feet kind of thing. And so in that sense, I always thought that was a pretty good story, in the sense that they formed, they got themselves sorted out. Donald Watson basically did all the work for the first 5 years. He wrote everything, and he dealt with the cash and all that, and he answered all the letters and everything. He used to come home from work at 10 in the night and start answering 30 letters that he would get every day. Huh. He said he never went to bed until those letters were answered, he reckoned. So that was all good.
He would have loved the internet.
All volunteers as well. All volunteers.
Philip says, can you scare? Oh, it must be Halloween coming. Can the screen URL be shared, please, Roger?
Yeah, it's how do I do that?
You know the document that you just put on. Is there a link to that could be shared?
Yeah,
put it in
it's
the chat.
Called candidhominid.com. So if you put in a search in a search engine, if you put in Leslie Cross candid hominid, you'll get it. And there's about 6 or 7 different essays in there. And really, from my point of view, Leslie Cross is responsible for that thing that I always talk about, which is the focus and the scope. And really, the definition concentrates on the focus of veganism, and it kind of hints to the scope. Whereas Leslie Cross's work talks about the scope. So if you want to know more about the scope, because again, let me just there was another bit of that I did want to point out, actually. Just reminded myself. This bit here, if you can see this, where is it now? Oh, there we go. This is a claim that is made all the time. I don't know if you can see this bit that I'm highlighting now. For the sake of both man and his fellow creatures. So they said that all the time. And Donald Watson, writing to Arthur Ling, said that by definition, veganism was about helping both other animals and human animals. So that's always been part of the ethos of veganism, that through animal liberation, we will become liberated ourselves. So it's a really kind of important aspect of it.
One thing I'm interested to talk to Ryan about, actually, and kind of stems maybe from the definitions and the way sometimes people reduce the definition. They also perhaps reduce veganism to a diet. And I just wonder, Ryan, if there, and you probably agree with this, there's a risk of obviously framing veganism as a human-centric diet or lifestyle choice. And how do you get around that on your content, and how do you think we can get the ethical message, especially to maybe pre-vegans or new vegans, in order to inspire them to start living vegan and also to stay vegan? Because often it's the ethical message, isn't it, that keeps people vegan in the end, rather than just their own health, although we would dispute whether that is veganism in itself anyway. But how do you sort of frame things on your channel, Ryan?
That's a big question. I'm gonna try to just like answer it as succinctly as possible. I like to emphasize that there are many benefits to a vegan diet. At its core, it's an ethical stance against animal exploitation. I said, yeah, if you don't have to come for that. A lot of people, like say athlete Rich Roll, started eating vegan because of health problems he was experiencing as a middle-aged man, and later learned more about veganism, learned about we don't need to harm animals. Yeah, I can support that. It's great for your body. It's great for the environment. Now we learn it's probably going to help prevent more future pandemics. I mean, there's so many wins for veganism. So I like to present veganism as a triple win, a quadruple win. But yeah, come for whichever reason. If you didn't come for the animals, stay a while, learn more. And I'm pretty sure as long as you're not a sociopath, you don't like harming others for pleasure, you'll learn about the ethical aspects of veganism, and that'll solidly keep you in. Because yeah, diets, it can be fatty, come and go, but a moral stance, I think that's more permanent.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's one thing you've talked about, I think, in your streams, Ryan, is the people who kind of drop out of veganism, and I think the answer is exactly what you just said. It seems that it doesn't matter the reason that people come in to veganism. They can start. Let's use the word journey. I don't suppose Gary Francione will be watching, so we won't upset him too much.
And I just kind of pause you right there, Roger, if you don't mind. I think ethical vegans. I think ethical vegans shouldn't attack new vegans who are not yet ethical vegans. They might be following a vegan diet, so they're not technically vegan. But I think ethical vegans sometimes are too harsh on these new people. Be kind to them. Give them information. Don't turn them off. Okay, I'll stop now. I just want to throw that in there.
Well, actually, I totally agree with that. And in fact, I was about to say something similar, in the sense that it doesn't matter, it seems, why people start their journey to veganism. The evidence does seem to be, from the research we have, is that if they don't engage with the ethics at some early point, then they're more likely to drop out. And so the ethical vegans, and I know that's a controversial phrase, should do exactly what you say and say, okay, here's somebody who is vegan curious, they're plant-based vegan curious, so this is our time to actually educate them towards veganism and stopping them dropping off the wagon,
I agree 100%. We got to be compassionate to people as well, and understand that they might not be where we might be at as far as understanding the ethical aspects that are essential to veganism. It takes time. There's a lot of information making a big life switch, and we have to remember what that was like. Like long-term vegan like me, it's 11 years now. It's easy to forget that kind of thing, but it's good that I'm always in contact with people who are about to go vegan, new vegan, so I keep that perspective fresh.
Yeah, it is important for people to, as you say, be kind to people in that sense, because what's the point of, because I mean, recently there's been a bit of a trend to have a go at vegetarians. I don't know if you noticed that, Ryan. Mm-hmm. So what's your approach to vegetarians?
Again, I don't attack people for their beliefs, especially if they're, what I see vegetarians, in my mind at least, is on the path to veganism. So I make a point not to attack people on the path to veganism. Yeah, I wish, like you guys would probably have the same feelings too, that they wouldn't participate in cruelty. And direct cruelty that's inherent in the dairy and egg industries. It just kind of boggles my mind. If they are into it for ethical concerns, I don't see how you can stop at vegetarianism. But I understand it's addicting. Not it, but dairy is addicting. There's a morphine-like compound in there that keeps people hooked on cheese for life. So I get that. But I hope I answered the question there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting one, because right from the start, veganism was critical of vegetarianism. I mean, Watson called vegetarians the lactose, for example, and but the idea would be not to attack vegetarians, but to critique vegetarianism, and so that's kind of
what I just did right there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Do you find that part of the problem, I mean, for people being more aggressive is social media? Because I find that in real life, when we talk to someone face to face, there is more nuance. People are more polite. They phrase their objections in a different way. But many times in social media, people get very aggressive very fast. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you raise a great point there. It's not just about veganism, it's about how humans communicate differently in person via like a more separated, often anonymous way on social media. Let's see, I thought I was going to say something else about that. I guess it'll come back to me. I'm just, you guys know, I'm kind of a late riser. It's kind of an early time for me. So thoughts are kind of coming and not sticking with me that well right now.
There was another question for you, actually. Ryan, where's it gone?
I know if any of my haters are watching, they're going to say, oh, it's vegan brain fog. That's why he's not connecting his ideas together. No, it's just I'm a late riser. Some vegans are late risers. Many non-vegans
vegan
are
deterioration.
Many non-vegans are late risers too. It has nothing to do with diet. It's some kind of brain preference thing.
Is this the one you mean?
Yeah, that's it. A question for Ryan. Is there much of a thank you, Roger. Is there much of a vegan scenes or vegan unity in California? Is there a vegan society or association in California?
As far as organized like ethical groups like that, I'm not really in touch with too many. I know I meet people all the time from different organizations. I don't know anything as like big as like say the Vegan Society out here, but I mean, as far as a scene in like a more social scene, hell yeah. Prior to like the pandemic, I was telling Angie, who works with me on this channel, my partner, that I'm kind of tired. I can't go out every weekend to all these vegan festivals and events and pop-ups and parties. It's just overwhelming. But yeah, just like this weekend, we had to make some choices of what we were going to go, which events we were going to attend and not attend. So yeah, it's strong here. Yeah, it's hardcore.
It's hard being vegan and having all these places to go to. It's terrible.
Yeah, I know. People say, yeah, how do you have friends as vegans? Like, no, I have more of a social life now than ever before, and I'm an introvert, so this is really tough for me.
Do we want to tackle, I don't know whether people have been looking at the chat there, but these it started here. Do we want to tackle this thing? This comes from a website originally called Vegan Today, and it's suggesting that Donald Watson was a bit of a moderate, and then you got this hardcore on the rights person Cross coming in, and who effectively booted Watson out. And I think this is a quote. I don't know if you're familiar with this story, Ryan.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, basically, not in depth, but yeah.
Yeah, and do you? I mean, I don't know the people behind this vegan. I mean, this Vegan Today thing. I think it's got a website, and I think there was 1 or 2 videos where there's this guy with his shirt off, and he's basically trying to make veganism into diet and about health. And he said that that's what Donald Watson wanted veganism to be. And the reason I think that he's got a bit confused is the fact that it is true that they did talk about health at first because of that old thing that everybody told them they were going to die by going vegan. And so they had to kind of prove
Yes.
that veganism was a kind of viable diet. And
that's the only reason why I talk about health too, because all these haters coming on saying I'm going to die or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of that, don't you, Ryan? Like vegan deterioration, making videos about you, and like you were saying, taking pictures of you and just like putting them on and saying, "Oh, you're losing your hair, you're losing your eyebrows." I checked that channel out, by the way. I'm just what a load of
look at me. I'm not doing too bad for 53 or 54 years old now. Yeah,
I'm a bit worried about those eyebrows, though, Ryan. What's going on there?
I have a kind of eyebrow style that's common amongst people with Asian heritage. I think I forgot what it's called. My wife knows it. But anyway, yeah, I just have an Asian kind of brow. I guess she's not used to seeing Asians where she lives, you know? So anyway, yeah, it's not because I'm vegan that I have this kind of eyebrow style.
But you end up getting drawn into that, don't you? You get drawn into those conversations, having to almost justify veganism, prove you're healthy. And I know you've done lots of blood tests and things on your channel, haven't you? How do you find that? That's that whole kind of having to prove yourself and prove your health and everything, when really it's not just about health, as we know.
I just find it it's just humorous, all these silly things that these anti-vegans say. So I'm going, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to share with the entire world, like the entirety of my blood panels, not just like 1 or 2 readings, the whole thing. I put it up there. They can pause it, find whatever things they want, but I'll cover the key aspects that most people are interested in, like say, like protein, albumin, B12D. I pay to get those extra tests. Most people don't get those on their blood panels, and I've been putting the panels up ever since we started our channel. I do it every 12 to 18 months. I share them with the world. Again, I don't like hide things out or anything like that. I share the results of, like, say my not only blood tests, but like my athletic pursuits. I'm just really transparent about it because I have nothing to hide. I just keep wanting to ask the haters, okay, you say I'm going to die after X amount of years as a vegan. Here's my blood panels. They're probably better than yours. In fact, some of these haters, I'll say, hey, I'll contribute to your Patreon if you'll share your blood panels like I have. I mean, I just have nothing to hide. I feel I'm doing a service of sorts to show the world that these claims that anti-vegans make are just complete nonsense, and I have objective evidence to dispute their claims.
Here's a compliment from you from the vegan songstress. You look much younger than that. And for Jennifer, Ryan sent me a private message saying the check's in the post for you saying that. So I see that the gob has used that as a bit of a go. A bit of a go for me. So Ryan or Wendy, do you want to describe this vegan deterioration site? Then it's absolutely appalling, isn't it?
It's not even to give them any airtime. I don't like to talk about people who make a living basically off making up lies and about vegans and slandering vegans. Just once in a while I'll respond, but I just ask my viewers, like, how do you know they made such a video? Why are you following them? Why are you supporting them? Why are you giving them any life on social media?
Yeah, it's a good point. But did anybody know, is this person claiming to have been a vegan at one point or what?
Yeah, basically I think she's upset because she followed some dietary advice of a vegan who was following a pretty restrictive and extreme kind of diet, like just like fruit only or high raw, something like that. You know, not like how just regular eating food, you know, kind of vegans are like I am. So anyway, she had some results, which I don't know, like she didn't like. I don't know if she was looking to lose weight or something like that, and she didn't get the weight loss, or maybe like some of these high fruit people, they get gastrointestinal issues and they blame it on veganism. No, blame it on the extreme and restrictive form of veganism that you chose. Look at the definition of veganism. It doesn't say you have to eat only fruit or something like that for the rest of your life. You
I
freelanced
don't
and thought you
know.
knew better and made up your own definition of what veganism is.
I understand that most people need to be assured that are not in any kind of risk by following a plant-based diet before they start following that diet. But do you feel that we're focusing too much on diet and health aspects in the movement? Sometimes I feel that the majority maybe of vegans advertises veganism as a cure for every disease on earth. So it feels like we put the dietary aspect at the epicenter of the whole discussion instead of putting the moral issue there. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's funny. I just showed I responded to this raw fruitarian guy who pretty much said that. His quote was, "It's my belief that eating like fruit only," or whatever he called it, "can reverse every disease known to man." Verbatim, he said that. I mean, that's just complete nonsense. I mean, it's just complete every disease known to man. I'm saying these people are not promoting veganism. These people are promoting some just woo-woo idea of health and nutrition that's not backed by any science, not backed by any credible associations or groups of health professionals. So maybe they're what I'm trying to say is they're often ironically they're promoting diets that have been shown to not be the healthiest for people. Like we were talking earlier about people that quit veganism. Roger brought that up. I didn't even mention here that like most all these people I made videos that who responded. I responded to these people why I had to quit vegan. Vegan diet almost killed me. They were following, without almost exception, some extreme restrictive form of veganism. So I think your average social media viewer needs to be aware, make the distinction. Is this person promoting veganism, like animal rights, an ethical stance against animal exploitation, or are they just like promoting some kind of like woo-woo health thing and disguising themselves as vegans? Because there's a huge difference between the two.
And I think because when, as Nella rightly said, if we focus on just the dietary aspects and that's the center, we're not centering other animals, and we're making it very human centric. It's all about the human's choice, human lifestyle. It doesn't really convey a message of anti-oppression and justice, which of course veganism actually fundamentally is a message of anti-oppression and justice, and also it does risk reinforcing oppressive systems as well, like patriarchy, because you get that whole kind of message that, oh, if you're going to be, you can be a real man and be vegan, and it's all that kind of build your muscles and all of that, which is again perpetuating that there's one way to be a man. You get that kind of the thin white promotion of stereotype muscly men, thin women, often white, healthy, able bodies. So it's kind of reinforcing some of the more oppressive systems like sexism, racism, ableism, things like that. So of course we do have to really can frame the health message very carefully. So we can say, yeah, vegans come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and bodies, but some vegans are healthy, some maybe are not. There's all sorts of different things that go on. We are just kind of well-rounded people. The fundamentals of our beliefs are ethical, and we want to center other animals in that and make it about justice.
Yeah, that's
I agree.
That's the stoutest comment, isn't it? Well-rounded.
Oh,
I agree with your point there. I like to tell people too. Yeah, these people come in like, oh, veganism isn't healthy. I said, you know what? In the definition of veganism, it doesn't say anything about this is a healthy diet, or some people say it's not the world's healthiest diet. I don't know what the world's healthiest diet. I don't know if there is a scientific fact about that. All I know is if you look at the positions of health organizations around the world, the British Dietetics Association, and the United States Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, they've researched this. They have position papers after reviewing the relevant research, and it's their position after all this review that appropriately planned vegetarian and vegan diets are nutritionally adequate for people in all stages of life. That's all you need to know. And that has the implication, yeah, you can't be an unhealthy vegan if you follow a crap vegan diet. It's possible. Going vegan isn't synonymous with health. I'm focused on the ethics, but for the haters, I show them this. Debunk this paper, this position paper, which clearly states that following appropriately planned vegan diets are nutritionally adequate. That's all you need to tell these people. There's plenty of science to show that eating plants isn't going to kill you.
Yeah, it's important to also add that other rider to it about all stages of life, including pregnancy, isn't it? So,
including pregnancy, yes.
That's right, yeah. So, I think the Vegan Society did some very early work with people who've been vegan for life. And in fact, even in their 1976, it's a bit cringy. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Ryan, but there's a film that the BBC produced about the Vegan Society in 1976, right? And it's called Open Door. And if you look at that, you've got the Bland family. You couldn't make this up, really. You've got a family called Bland, right? They're vegan. They're called the Bland family, and so they've got vegan since birth, and I think they were vegan pretty early as well. And they're talking about, they still like to do rambling and this kind of stuff. Rambling was big for the early vegans. But yeah, it's just an issue, isn't it, that comes up over and over again. Right, where are we going to go next?
I wanted to. Oh, go on, Roger. I'll pause myself.
I was just going to go. The second one of your 5 was Julie Bindel, the feminist. And
a British person again, yeah.
Yeah, and she was really saying that people can't afford to be vegan and also can't afford to spend the time to cook plants. And this is how often do you get? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Wow,
Really, what I like to ask these people. I chose her as the representative that I can't afford to be vegan. It's too expensive. No, it's a privilege to eat meat 3 times a day. That's expensive. The poorest people on the planet. What do you think they're eating? Steak every day? They're eating the foods that I eat. The foods of non-privilege. I like to call it peasant food. Grains. What's cheaper than grains and legumes and potatoes and put some greens on that. You have a nice healthy meal. It's ridiculous that people are saying eating the food that most of us eat all the time are somehow associated with wealth, and you have to be rich and privileged to afford grains and potatoes.
I think there are 2 points there. One is that the processed fake meats and cheese and whatever are overemphasized within the movement. So sometimes we give the impression that in order to eat a vegan diet, you need to be able to afford all this stuff, which in many countries are expensive. They are more expensive than flesh here, for example. And the other thing is, while a vegan diet can be consisted from vegetables and beans and stuff that in most countries are cheap. For example, in Greece is the cheapest food we can get. We cannot forget that there are communities that have no access to fresh fruit and vegetables and stuff like that. They have not access and they cannot afford it. So my point is that maybe we should be more nuanced about it, and so these people don't feel excluded, and also do something about it. Raise awareness to the fact that there are still communities that have not access to healthy plant-based food. Although in reality this food is cheap, everyone should have access.
Yeah, most people have access to the kinds of foods I just mentioned. Yeah, not everywhere in the world can you go out and buy a Beyond Burger, an Impossible Burger. And those I put in the category of, those are kind of expensive relative compared to the kinds of stuff I just listed, the stuff that's in our books, which is, again, some of the cheapest foods you can buy for the most part. But yeah, when people say vegan foods are expensive, I go, what are you talking about exactly? What food specifically are you talking about? And back to Julie Bindel saying it takes more time to shop for vegan food. It doesn't take any more time to push your cart around the store and put some plants in there rather than meat. That's a ridiculous argument. And it takes an enormous amount of time to prepare vegan food. I mean, really? How long does it take to make meat? You know, I mean, cooking beans or potatoes doesn't take that much longer. These, again, they're just ridiculous arguments. People have this bizarre fantasy of what vegans eat, and it's funny how they have no idea what we eat, and they make these criticisms.
Part of the answer, I think, is what Dave said next here, which is meat is subsidized, and of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, if you take that away, I always make the point about the economies of scale and also supply and demand, in the sense that if vegan meats, for example, and vegan cheeses, for example, were sold in the amounts that you know, the kind of animal version are selling at, then in theory, and I always say that capitalism will probably get in the way of this, but in theory, it should be a lot cheaper, because there's a lot cut out from the process. They don't have the farms, they don't have the slaughterhouses, they don't have to transport from the farm to the slaughterhouses. It's less water and all the rest of it. And so the production should be cheaper in the long run. And so we should, in theory, get cheaper meats when we go to vegan meats.
Yeah, I talk about those exact same points all the time. Subsidies and economies of scale are keeping the price of plant-based meats higher right now, but that should change over time. I don't know about the subsidies, but the economies of scale can be improved upon in plant-based meats and cheeses for sure. But it's unfair that like Beyond Meat has to compete against the meat industry, which is being subsidized by our governments. Why can't they compete on an even playing field when that's, as far as that's concerned? That's unfair.
Well, there's never. I mean, even the free marketeers, they don't expect a free market when it comes to farming. You know, I mean, farming has never been a free market, so you know, that's never going to work.
And as the government makes the point at 6:51, generally the working class or poor eat crap, fast food, etc., and don't have the know about or taste buds for healthy food. And I think that's something as well, that, because I was thinking about this the other day, some of the people that I know and from I grew up and things like that, they might be because they're thinking in a certain way about what they eat, about the food. So it might be like, well, we get this and we get this cheap food and it's maybe processed or it's maybe packaged or whatever. And for them, they're just trying to think of, if they think of how they leave out that food and become vegan, they would just be thinking, for example, if they have like a veg with their food, it'd be like, well, what goes with it? And then what goes with it would be a substitute that we were talking about, maybe the more expensive version. So I think it's not just about saying like you can just pick up plants instead of the meat. I think it's a whole new way of thinking about food as well when you're going into more healthy whole food way of preparing food. And I think it depends how people already consume, doesn't it? If you survive on junk food or ready-made food, prepared food, then you have to shift the mindset. And I think that can be an obstacle for some people, not just the cost, it's the rethinking it as well.
Maz's comment is great, and I just want to add to that now more so than ever, knowledge has been democratized, because he's saying there's like a lack of knowledge amongst some peoples, and what he's saying here can apply to any person from any socioeconomic group. So anyway, knowledge has been democratized, and knowledge is out there as far as how to eat. You know, if you want to be a healthy vegan, the information's out there. If you want to be a junk food vegan, just have at it too. I just told you guys last time, I really don't care. You know, if someone wants to be a junk food vegan, I'm not going to say anything bad about them. That's their choice. I'm making my choice. I'm in my 50s. I want to live a long, healthy life, and this is the choice I made for myself. But yeah, you can be an unhealthy vegan if you want.
Well, it's interesting that, though, isn't it, Ryan, in the sense that, say, 20 years down the road, when we suddenly get in research that there's a lot of junk food vegans having severe health problems, that's going to have a bit of a kickback on veganism as a whole, isn't it?
No, it's just going to show that veganism just generally is not a health movement. You have to decide on your own that that's the path in veganism that you want to follow. So yeah, I think that would actually be good in a sense to dispel that veganism is a health movement. It can be, but it's not one at its essence.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. for my part, I would have said this myself, what Maz has said a few years ago. I'm not so sure if it applies now. But I remember when I first went to Manchester, I went down to the local shops, and the vegetables were kind of swimming around in their own kind of stale kind of slime. And I was thinking, blimey, you know, we're going to have to liberate these people before they can even think about liberating other animals. And but I don't think now it's the same. And also, I don't think you can generalize about the working class so much either. But yeah, I think it's changed a bit. And now we've got the internet, which is your point, I think, Ryan, in the sense that it's not so hard to get information now, in that sense. But even then, I'm not quite sure how many people do that. You know, one thing we know sociologically is about food. People are very conservative. That's one sociological finding, which is really interesting. So.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we don't want to make it about diet and food because it isn't, and yet it's the thing that is the biggest obstacle for most people to overcome. So we end up making it about food and diet, and it's.
Here's a food question for you, Ryan. Do you use oil? I think you do, don't you?
Let's see. Great question. There's a lot of fighting on the internet, especially on nutrition Twitter, about no oil vegans, how people like, I don't know, like some of the doctors that promote no oil vegan are like kooks, or what do they call them? Just charlatans of some kind. There's many reasons why people don't like oil. I prefer. First of all, I'm not one of these people that believes if you have oil, you're going to have a heart attack. Unless we're talking about like high saturated fat oil. This is a non-controversial scientific fact that saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol, which is implicated in heart disease. So I try to avoid that. But as far as cooking with oil, no, we don't cook with oil. I do get oil all the time because I don't eat 100% of my meals here in the home. So when I go out to, like yesterday, went out to a vegan pop-up, got these just brilliant vegan tamales. There's oil in it, and I don't care. I mean, I personally, I feel better when I eat low oil. Being my age, my athleticism, my body functions better. I think my brain functions better too on a low oil diet. But that's my only reason. I feel better, and I'm not doing it to like save off, like, prevent heart attack or anything like that. It's purely preference.
I have a question for everyone, actually, and everyone in the chat. Are vegans usually happy, in your opinion, or because we're always aware of this horrific oppression that takes place every moment of every day, we've lost our ability to be happy forever?
That's a great question. There's a saying in philosophy. I don't think Socrates ever said this, but he said, who said this? I forget. Anyway, it's like I'd rather be a dissatisfied Socrates than a happy pig, because at least Socrates would understand why he's unhappy. He's not blissfully unaware. We're all of us are unfortunately very aware of the just extreme cruelties that exist in animal agriculture. So yeah, that is a burden to carry all the time. But we can take some what's the we're opposite of them. It's just some happiness in knowing that we're spreading a message that's hoping to end that at some point, and and we're working towards saving animals' lives. I'd like to remind people that 80 billion animals a year are slaughtered needlessly because of our addiction to animal products. So if we can end that at some point, that's something to look forward to. A light at the end of the tunnel, as I'm trying to say.
The reason I asked is that lately I often hear this argument from non-vegans that vegans are not happy people, that they're secluded socially, things like that. It seems to be like a new narrative, or at least new to me.
My response would be veganism or vegans now are so diverse as a group, you can't make generalizations. The only thing you could really say about vegans is you guys don't eat animal products. Other than that, politically, religious and psychological profiles, we're all over the map. So yeah, there's some people that are like that. I don't think vegans are inherently less happy. I mean, I was with a pretty happy group of vegans at a vegan pop-up yesterday. I'd like to see some data to support that, is what I'm saying. I don't believe that to be true. Maybe at some point, but we're such a diverse group now, you can't really, I don't think, safely generalize like that anymore.
Well, I think a few of the psychologists have talked about it. I mean, Casey Taft in particular, about the trauma of being vegan in a non-vegan world, and Claire Mann and Melanie Joy. I think they've all mentioned it, and so I think it depends on how far you're into veganism. I think sometimes I think when you hit 3, 4, 5 years, I think some people can get depressed because they kind of realize it's a long thing, and the kind of revolution that they thought they were starting in their first couple of years is not going to happen. And then I think you learn how to cope with the fact that it's a long trek. I think that psychologically you do that. You kind of come to terms with the longness of it. Because obviously we've always got the numbers. We always talk about numbers. How many billions? Remember the BYV slogan, every 6 seconds an animal dies in a British laboratory. We've got these numbers in our head. And you're thinking, we can't wait fucking years. What about the seconds? And you've got those animal counters going off.
Two ways to look at it, Roger. Like, the glass is half empty or half full. Yes, it takes time to make a huge change in the world like this, but the world has changed. Look at how many people are vegan now compared to the past. Look at how many vegan food companies there are in supermarkets. I mean, I tell you, I go to vegan events all the time. I don't feel socially isolated or anything like that. The world has fundamentally changed since I went vegan in 2010. I mean, it was so much harder back then. And when I went vegan in 2010, I go, wow, it's pretty easy. And it's like way easier now because there's so much more information, support, food, products. So there is optimism. There are positive things to point out. I mean, in the restaurant and food services industries, it's a well-known fact that plant-based offerings are by far, they're growing like double-digit percentage each year compared to the rest of the market. It's exploding. So there's a lot of positive there's a lot of good things happening. But yeah, we want things sooner, quicker, but things are changing at a pretty quick rate. It's not going to happen like that.
We've just gone over the hour mark, people. Also, building on that, Ryan, do you think, there's a two-part question, do you think that vegan capitalism is possible? And what's your position on the argument that the values of veganism are inherently left-leaning values?
It depends how you define capitalism and left, because I've heard some definitions of capitalism that have at their essence a sense of like freedom of like you own yourself, like you are possession of your body. So you could make the argument that animals have that same kind of freedom as well. I mean, I'm not well versed in like economic theories, so I don't know if I'm a great person to answer that, but I don't see any reason why like things are flourishing right now, and whatever you want to call our system of economics in the world, veganism is taking off. I mean, there's IPOs on the stock market all the time, like for like Beyond Meat and companies like that. So companies are able to survive, and not survive but thrive, and the movement's growing amongst the system. Would it do better under another one? I have no idea.
What about the second bit, in the sense that there's a Facebook group called Vegans for Trump? How does that kind of make sense?
Personally, I don't understand that connection, but like I said earlier, we're a super diverse group now. Yeah, maybe in the long time ago, you could say, oh, you vegans are all like left-wing hippies and stuff like that, playing hacky sack barefoot, and maybe that was true 20 years ago. I don't know, but right now we're such a diverse group. You can't generalize pretty much anything about vegans anymore. I personally, as far as United States politics goes, and I don't want to make this too political, I consider myself apolitical. I don't follow the ideologies of any political party. I consider myself an independent thinker. Not to put myself on a high horse or anything like that. I kind of model my way of thinking through things as what in Plato's Republic he described the philosopher king, someone who ruled not through political bias but by ruling through just clear, concise, rational thought. That's my goal. I'm not saying I achieved that, but I would like to see that at some point. I'm getting around to saying is that I'm not seeing the right wing party really doing much in the way of like goals that our vegans are aligned with, such as like animal cruelty and environmental concerns. Not to say veganism is an environmental concern, but I've picked up some environmental activism just as being vegan now. But yeah, at the core, I'm a vegan activist.
Do you feel that it's kind of impossible to liberate other animals or actually anyone within a system that is inherently exploited? I mean, capitalism is linked to sexism because it oppresses women more. It's linked to the oppression of minorities because it exploits them more. And in general, capitalism cannot exist without turning everything and everyone into a resource that can be exploited. So,
I hear what you're saying.
I see the positive thing of having all these products and making everyday life easier because we can just go to the supermarket, grab whatever, and we are done. But is true liberation really possible in that frame?
Yeah, there's going to be exploitation across the board, not only animals, people, and all. But again, I'm not here to defend capitalism, but capitalism kind of survives on the principle of supply and demand. And I know that balance can be changed and has been changing as people have more, there's increased demand for plant products. So that alone can end capitalism. I mean, it ended like the typewriter industry as people had less and less demand for typewriters. And I see something similar happening as far as animal products are concerned too. So that is how capitalism, how products rise and fall, supply and demand. If we could change demand, we'll end animal agriculture for the most part.
Yeah, because it's strange, isn't it? As veganism has risen, the astonishing number of other animals who are being murdered each year has not dropped. It's actually rising as well. So that's where sometimes it can be quite demoralizing. And obviously that's where I think sometimes a lot of these products that are aimed at vegan or called vegan products and it's not the vegans really that are consuming them, it's other people, the reducitarians, maybe people kind of looking to maybe be a little bit more climate friendly and all of that stuff. I think a lot of those products are aimed at a different market to kind of ethical vegans, and maybe that's why we still don't see a fall in the exploitation and murder of other animals, even though we have more vegans or so-called vegans.
Yeah, I'd like to see the data in that, because as people, vegans and non-vegans, consume more plant-based products, I mean, it seems like your belly can only hold so much food. So if you're eating more plant food, it seems like the demand for non-vegan foods would decrease at some point. I mean, does that make sense? Because I agree with you, yeah, like Beyond Burgers and stuff like that, they're not made for vegans. They're made, yeah, that's a small market to go after. That's small beans for Beyond Meat. They want to get just all kinds of people to eat their products on a regular basis.
Oh, I like that, small beans for Beyond Meat. And I suppose the rounded vegans, Wendy, they must eat more.
Well-rounded.
Well-rounded vegans, yeah. Just one issue that I wanted to bring up, because I saw it at one of your lives, it was really interesting. You had this prolonged discussion about whether it was cruel to shoot someone when they were asleep. And you've, I mean, obviously we get the lead for this from this fairly weak and washy thing. And we kind of debated this within the team as well about, is it cruel? Because I know Francione makes the point that it's not cruel. I think he says that. If you creep into somebody's bedroom and you shoot them, it's not cruel, but it's a rights violation. You think it's cruel, Ryan? Yeah.
I think they're just trying to find, again, definitions are not perfect. Let's just be very clear. Every definition has its trade-offs, its pluses and minuses. And the Vegan Society's definition didn't think to consider, what if some oddball troll is trying to find a workaround? Like, what if I shoot the animal when it's asleep? You know, I mean, they're just trying to find some weird outlying example to like say that, you know, that that's just to kill an animal when it's asleep. I mean, it's not right to kill any sentient being when they're asleep, especially if they don't want to be shot. I mean, they're just trying to find a workaround.
Yeah, well, I think it's more of a philosophical point, isn't it? In the sense that it seems to me that it's hard to ascribe the word cruel to that act. And the reason it's important within the movement, I think, is because cruelty talk is one of the dividing things between an animal rights position and an animal welfare position. And a lot of people who call themselves animal rights, they use cruelty talk virtually as their primary type of talk. And the reason I mentioned the definition is because that's where they kind of get it from, I suppose. It's just that I would definitely think on a kind of philosophical level that killing someone when they're asleep, be it human or non-human, is a rights violation, certainly. Whether it's cruel or not is more difficult. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
I think that cruelty... Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
No, go ahead now. No.
I just wanted to say that probably, I don't know, maybe my interpretation is wrong, but I think that the Vegan Society added cruelty in the definition just to cover all bases. For example, animals that get cruel treatment without being exploited, like free living beings getting poisoned, for example, or getting killed.
Yeah, and they just didn't. Yeah, I'm sure that's why they added the word cruelty in. They didn't think about what if an animal's asleep. You know, I'm just saying it's such a weird example. It doesn't happen that way. In the slaughterhouses, they don't put animals to sleep, so they didn't think to add that in because it's just a thought experiment. It's not a part of this real world that we all live in.
So Ryan, actually, this brings us to a question that I wanted to ask you about, actually, which is language and using language in our advocacy. How do you feel that the language that we use as animal advocates is important? And I wonder if there's anything that you in particular avoid using or try to use in a political way, so anti-speciesist language and, you know, pro-justice language or anything like that. Is there anything that springs to mind for you when you're doing your content? It
really depends on the context. It depends the setting, the situation, and who you're speaking to. For instance, after I did the meeting with you guys on Friday, I had my basketball jersey on ready. It said Vegan Squad, and I went to the gym, and of course, it starts up a conversation about vegan diets. So I know the context of this kind of situation, this conversation really well. It happens many times. I'm not going to bring up things about like animal holocaust and stuff like that. They don't want to hear that right then. I'm going to bring up other aspects of why I'm vegan. So I think you need to. My way of answering your question is, I think. Here's my goal. My goal is, I call it conversions. I want to get people to become vegan. I know it probably is not going to happen in one conversation, but I want them to depart from a conversation with me or a speech I'm giving with a positive feeling about veganism. I don't want them to think, oh, vegans are all strange and cruel and harsh and stuff like that. I want to give them the information that person or persons need right then to plant a seed in their brains to become open to veganism, so when they hear more information from the next vegan activist they encounter, they'll be open instead of closed off. So that's my goal in veganism, to get conversions. I want people to stop eating meat and go vegan eventually. And I'll tailor my message to give them the right information that they need at that moment. That I feel that they need at that moment.
To build on what Wendy was saying, you're not suggesting, though, that in order to do all of that, you would then have to use kind of speciesist or other kind of language. I mean, you can make all those points without doing that, can't you?
Well, I'm not sure if I understand your question, but like, say at the gym, I'm talking to them about why I went vegan and the many benefits I'm experiencing as a vegan. That's what they want to hear right then. I don't want to tell them, 80 billion animals are being slaughtered a year. That's kind of like out of the context for that particular conversation with that particular individual at that time.
Is that the aspects of language you were thinking of, Wendy?
I was thinking more of kind of using anti-speciesist language, like like we talk about on the show. Like obviously one of the big ones that we talk about a lot is not calling other animals it, because it reinforces the property status. It reinforces that other animals are things. So we would say who and they and them rather than it and that and that kind of thing. Even though when you read articles, even in the media, and talk to non-vegans, anti-vegans, they will obviously call other animals it all the time, even other vegans to call other animals it. But it's one thing that we try to advocate against as in a political way. And things like calling, rather than calling collective of fish, we would say fishers, to reinforce the individuality of those fish people, sea people. So just things like that. I guess I was just kind of wondering if on your YouTube channel and how if you put across that kind of anti-speciesist language, if you talk about oppression and justice and respect and things like that, or do you think the audience that you have, would that be off-putting to them?
No.
I just wondered if you had any experience with that.
I think that just doesn't come up too often, but yeah, I mean, I take it a step further. When I see animals, I call them people and persons. I grant them personhood. I don't really have an opportunity to express that too often on my live streams, but I think to answer your question is, I try my best to avoid like referring to animals as it, or I don't see them as its. I see them as like myself.
I suppose the interesting thing there is that, going back to your kind of gym example of meeting people for the first time and having the very first conversation with people, then perhaps words like fishers or phrases like fishers could be, rather than creating a conversation, it could kind of like stop it in a way, couldn't it? So, I suppose in that,
I think it's how you do it. You could drop in some language like that, like what you're just suggesting there, and just to augment the conversation in a way. I think that's not going to make them like put on the defense or something like that. They would, I think, perceive it as reflecting my beliefs of that animals are sentient beings and we shouldn't harm them.
Yeah. I think we're agreed on that. I think we're coming at that question from two different angles, but. So, has anybody got any final things? We ought to give you the opportunity to. Oh, okay. Now,
I wanted to ask Brian about his music, and if he uses music as a way to spread the vegan message, or if it is something completely separated from this part of your life.
Great question. Yeah, music is I don't. It goes back to like my first band in the 1990s, Love Spirals Downwards. We didn't have any kind of message in our music. In fact, there was no message that most of the songs didn't even have a language. It was just kind of more phonetic, like say Cocteau Twins or something like that. So I've kind of historically not had obvious messages in our music, and nowadays with my current band with Angie, Love Spirals, she sings in English 99% of the time, but still it's not like conveying a political message. For me, I've always just been more I'm not a political oriented musician. I've never been like a Bob Dylan kind of guy or something like that, so more of a Pink Floyd kind of guy, expressing like thoughts about the human condition, my experience as a human in this universe, things like that. So I've never really gotten to politics and music. Just this is how I'm wired, I guess.
Well, we don't need any education. That's pretty
that's Roger Waters' trip. Yeah, I was thinking more of like the earlier stuff before the wall, like Wish You Were Here and stuff like that. He's expressing a sentiment about missing a human. Not trying to make a big political statement about it.
And I have a question for Ryan as well, just really briefly. If someone was looking to start a YouTube channel, a vegan who wanted to start doing some social media activism, do you have any guidance, any advice? Someone just setting out? That's probably a big question, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, you know. I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls as far as like gaining traction, and then once you do, dealing with haters and stuff like that, and mean comments. And you just be ready to be attacked. Be ready that you need to have the kind of psychology that allows you to hear just slander about yourself, and that you can take it. You know, some of it'll hurt, but most of the time you just gotta laugh. And then, you know, slander about veganism, just people making up lies all the time about veganism. But as far as those psychological attributes, I would say as far as like work ethic, be consistent, and you know, put out content regularly and see what's do you. Don't try to be me or your favorite YouTuber. What's unique about your voice, your experience, and bring that, because that's what's going to have people watch you rather than me. It's like they might click with how you're doing it. So yeah, be you.
Is it true that if you go for a holiday or whatever, if you don't do a live in YouTube for a week or 10 days, then the algorithms are messed? And
Hey, the algorithms hate us anyway, so I've just learned the past few years we can do whatever we want now. But yeah, it is just general good practice to put out regular content. I don't think the algorithm will forget you. There's some kinds of content creators, by the nature of the kinds of extremely well-produced content they make, they have teams that work with them. They can't put content out like every few days. They put it out like once a month or twice a month, and they seem to be doing well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Do you ever feel constrained by those algorithms, Ryan? Do you ever feel like you don't get to put the content out that you want to because you're trying to fit with the algorithms or get the viewers, the clickbait titles, all that stuff? Or do you just put out what you want genuinely, authentically?
Yeah, a great question, Wendy. Yeah, for the first many years of us doing YouTube, I think I was kind of trying to optimize for the algorithms. I don't think I ever cheapened my content or anything like that, but after a while of doing that, somehow the algorithms didn't care about us anyway. So after that, I realized, F the algorithms, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want to do now. So that's my attitude for like the past few years. I put out content maybe a little less regularly, but I put out content about exactly what I want to talk about. And if it's not going to get a lot of views, I don't care anymore. I mean, really, I just want to again, just be me, be authentic to myself, and if the algorithms are not going to pick up every last video I make, I'm cool with that. I'm not trying to become a YouTube star or something like that. Even though if you Google me, it sometimes says Ryan Lum, YouTube star. I just kind of laugh at that. Like, I'm lucky to get 5,000-10,000 views on a video. That's not really a YouTube star.
Well, it's not bad going though, but
that sounds pretty good.
It's all relative. Yeah, it's all relative for sure.
It is, yeah. Yeah,
there is a question for Ryan.
Sorry, yeah. There's the Elliot thing is 7:21, and I'm not sure where the question is. Sorry, Nella. You can.
Oh, the question is John. It's the last one about Ryan's favorite vegan channels and who does he recommend the most?
Let's see. My favorite vegan channels are kind of all over the place. I'm kind of biased. I guess I kind of like some friends of mine. That's why I kind of watch. That's why I guess why they're friends. I chose to be friends with them, or we became friends because of, I guess we have something kind of similar going on. But I just kind of more down to earth people, not these shocking people. So just to name a few channels that I enjoy, I would say Mike the Vegan. He's gotten quite popular, and he likes to credit us for breaking him. He said he wasn't getting any views until we featured him. Now he gets way more views than we ever have. Chris Vegan Zombie, he's an older vegan like myself. I'm in my 50s, he's in his mid 40s. I think he's been vegan 25 years, dispelling this whole myth that you will die as a vegan. So yeah, off the top of my head, sometimes I'll watch our friends, those annoying vegans. They live around us here in Los Angeles. I know I'm leaving a bunch out. And I like guys like, say, Earthling Ed and Joey Carbstrong. I like to see their street activism. I wish I had a more of a network or team like Joey does, so I can go out in the street and chat with strangers and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I like to watch all different kinds of vegans.
So are the annoying vegans annoying? That's the question, isn't it?
If you're a non-vegan, I guess they are. Yeah. For people like us, like what? Like what's so weird about them?
Well, just
maybe Ryan, you might add us to your little list now. Animal rights, sure.
Yeah, animal rights podcast, animal rights. Yeah, for sure.
Just to bring a couple of themes together, because what you were saying there about, kind of having to take all the kind of flack and that from people when you put yourself out there. Ronnie, who's just left, or Ronnie Lee, who just left, he went vegan in 1972. Now, his latest thing is that he wants the vegan definition to include activism in it. But do you think, given the fact that we do get a lot of flack all the time, that there are some people who just can't really do that, and that they'll never really be activist material kind of thing?
I agree with his sentiment. I think that we should try to be activists and spread the message with people. The message. I'm not trying to make it sound religious, but the message of not exploiting animals. That being said, it's a different world now than it was, like, say, before, like, the invention of Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. There's so much hate online. So, and not everyone is equipped psychologically to deal with that in a healthy way. I've seen people get mentally wrecked from this kind of like just psychological trauma that happens on a daily basis when you read through your comments. So that being said, if you're not wired that way and you still want to be a vegan activist, I have a very wide interpretation or definition of what vegan activism is. There's traditional kinds of activism, but you can just have an Instagram account where you don't ever show your face or your name, keep anonymous, and then show like your vegan food. Share with the world that vegans eat tasty, delicious foods. If that's the most comfortable a person feels exposing themselves to the evils of the world, that's great. So, and if you want to do more, if you want to put yourself out there, if your full name, your blood test like I do, go for that too. But I understand not everyone, like Angie feels a little less comfortable than I do about being as open and transparent, just because as soon as people find some perceived weakness, they will jump on you. If you fall down and hurt your elbow and you have a Band-Aid on it, I told you vegan diet was horrible or whatever, it's just kind of, talk about being sad and depressed, dealing with that nonsense every day can wear people down. So I say do what you feel most comfortable doing.
Ryan, do you have practices that help you to stay a happy, healthy vegan? Despite all the trolling, toxicity, all the rest?
I would say being more or less... if someone put a gun to my head, what religion are you? Buddhism. I'm a Buddhist, but I don't go to like participate in like organized Buddhist things or anything like that. But I think just the philosophy of Buddhism has helped me. It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect as far as like helping a person healthily deal with all this hate online. But I think Buddhism has helped me a lot.
We found an interesting religious thing today.
Oh no.
I found this Facebook group and it was called Being a Vegan, the Religion of Mercy. I thought, oh, for fuck's sake. Couldn't believe it. Just the background for you, Ryan, everybody else will know this, but I've got a bit of a bugbear with a name like Mercy for Animals. I think it's absolutely dreadful. Animal rights. I do, yeah. I mean, animal rights is not begging for mercy; it's demanding justice. And I think Mercy for Animals is a terrible name for an advocacy group. So when I saw that, the religion of mercy associated with veganism, I thought, oh no, can't be serious.
Sounds like a metal band to me.
Yeah, it does. That's like a great band. Yeah. Or a goth band.
There's something about Buddhism for you there, Ryan. Why are most Buddhists not vegan?
It's a good question, but let's kind of flip it around a little bit. Before the explosion of vegan restaurants that has occurred in the past decade and a half, at least out here, back before like say 2010, the vegan restaurants I was going to were Buddhist restaurants, because there is a subculture in Buddhism where the monks are vegan, and they have restaurants all over the world that cater to monks following this diet. So Buddhism is one of the few religions that has a substantial core of vegan and true vegan. They're not doing it for health. They're fully following the principle of that all animals are sentient beings and not harming not harming them. So I wonder why more are not, but at least there's a principle in Buddhism that creates a pretty substantial class of vegans.
I think the point applies to Jainism more than Buddhism as well.
Yeah, even more so there, but you don't find too many Chinese restaurants. I'm just saying, there's a lot of you can find a lot of Asian restaurants that are you walk in, oh, it's all vegan, and you ask them why. It's the Buddhist monk diet, a certain kind of Buddhist monk diet.
I think Philip Murphy, who I don't think Philip's here anymore, but Philip's doing a lot of work to try to promote veganism into the Buddhist circles and yogi circles.
Yeah, but it does puzzle me though. Like, one of the doctrines is like, suffering. Like, the root of our problems in life is suffering, and that applies to animals, humans alike. So I'm really quite shocked that you're not seeing more vegan Buddhists who are vegan. To me, it makes so much sense. Seems like a slam dunk, no brainer.
The Dalai Lama is a meat eater. Isn't that a character in Dr. Dolittle? The Dalai Lama, no? That's what's it called? Push Me, Pull You, isn't it? The two llamas stuck together. I remember that. So, that was the original one. Right. Well, I think we're out of time, folks. So it's time to say goodbye. So, Happy Healthy Vegan is really your trademark, really, Ryan. So if people kind of search for that, they're going to find your website. They're going to find your YouTube and all that. Is there anything else you want to say in terms of self-publicity as a YouTube superstar?
Superstar now. I like that. Yeah, just look for us. We're online. We're on Facebook. I have my personal account, Ryan Lum, on Twitter. That's our presence on Twitter. What's cool about that is you catch some of the more philosophical side of me, because I see Twitter as a kind of more a thoughts and ideas platform. That's why I'm on there as my name, Ryan Lum. But anyway, just Google us, Happy Healthy Vegan. You'll find us everywhere. You'll find our store. We have our 2 books that Angie wrote of how to eat healthy, low-cost whole foods. It's our food diary, basically. So we have 2 books out that she's written. We have our Happy Healthy Vegan t-shirts. If you've seen those online, that's where you get them straight from us. Let's see. I have nothing else to plug other than, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Happy Healthy Vegan. I do weekly live streams Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I know it's a little late for most of you people in England. It's about 2 a.m., but I try to make one other live stream randomly throughout the week on a different date at an earlier time, so people from Europe can view some of these live streams live as they happen.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, but 2 a.m. is not good for me, I'm afraid. So,
and you said, as you mentioned there, we talk about all sorts of stuff. Sometimes a troll will come on, and I'll give them some line and play with them, and just let them just kind of hang themselves.
Does anyone want to meet?
Isn't that a line from Babe, isn't it? That'll do at the end, isn't it?
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah. Does anyone want to meet Brian's sister? Because I don't think you've met Brian's sister. Here she is. Ooh. Pickle! Oh. Hey!
That's a good cat right there.
This is Brian's twin sister.
She knows her name. Hey, Pickle!
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 Pickle! Pickle! Pickle! It's Uncle Roger.
Well, before we get any more silly, we ought to say goodbye. Thanks very much, Ryan, for being our first guest panelist of our first series about social media activism. So thanks very much for that.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Yeah, we shall share this recording around on the internet and get a few more viewers. Won't get as many as you normally get, but never mind.
Well, I will share it too. So yeah, we'll get the link and we'll put it on our social media.
If you broke Mick the Vegan, you can break us, can't you? There we go. So. Right. So,
thanks so much, Ryan.
Everyone, bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for all the great
comments.
Thank
you.
Always. Bye. I think Roger's keen. Bye, everyone.